It's alright if you love, it's alright if you don't. I'm not afraid of you running away, honey. I get the feeling you will. There is no sense in pretend. Your eyes give you away. Something inside you is feeling like I do. You said all there is to say. Baby, break down. Go ahead, give it to me. Break down and take me through the night. Break down, not spinning it. Can you see? Break down, it's alright. All right. We're ready to break down strict playoffs, so to speak, here in the cross country season. A little homage to Tom Petty. I'm Jared Felix, also known as eTrain11, the head writer over at the blog, and we're pretty excited for District Week. Looking forward to trying to answer some of the questions that you guys have been asking, just give an overall preview of the district action. I'm going to go through all 12 districts today in preparation for the previews that will be coming out on the blog in post form. I'll be making predictions on every single state qualifying spot available, all three classifications. So you're going to want to stay tuned for those. I'll be doing them in the order that the meets will happen. So 5, 11, and 2 are first up. They should all hopefully be up tomorrow. So stay tuned throughout the week. But let's jump right into the action because I don't want to waste time. I'm going to go through each district. If you have some questions that you want to ask that'll get answered on this, you can comment right now on the blog. I'm keeping track of the comment section as I'm going through this, and I'll answer them when I get to the districts. I'm going to start at 12 and work down. So 1 will be at the end. So hopefully that generates enough excitement that you'll stay with me. We're going to go relatively quick through these so that it doesn't get too long and drawn out. The posts that I put up will be, the usual level of in-depth analysis that I provide on that. Starting in District 12, looking at Single A first. The top team there, historically, the top team thus far this year, based on what I've seen, they look like a pretty solid team. It's going to be interesting to see how they round out the top 5. We saw them at Philly Public League. They had a strong showing. Individually, I think is the matchup to watch here. Dan Beachy from Masterman versus Camille Jihad from Newman Goretti. Just to throw this in there now, because I'm sure that there will be plenty of pronunciation mistakes. I apologize in advance for anybody's name I mess up. I'm just reading it on paper, and I'm not the best reader in the world. So anyway, that interesting matchup. It's a rematch last year. Camille won the title last year. Both guys are back. Camille with a solid race at PCLs. Keep an eye on both those guys. One of them could potentially become a medal threat down the line for states. Masterman, an interesting team. Single A is loaded right now. I've seen some people talking about it already in the comments. It's a really deep year. Masterman's got a solid team, but it's going to be tough for them to make a dent in the top 5. I think they're a top 10 team. It'll be interesting to see how they look and see what kind of dominance they have on display. Jumping up to Double A. Honor has been the team to beat in Double A. Day at PCLs. Some of their rivals there, Lansdale Catholic was among them. They managed to beat them out. Really helped by that top 2, top 3 on that team. So the 4-5 is going to be the zone to watch as we look ahead to that district meet. The 4-5 looks like it might swing it, but I think Anthony Harper, individual to watch there. He is the defending champion from last year, a state medalist from last year. Runs really well on the hilly courses, it seems to me. Put up a solid performance at PCLs, was one of the only guys that was able to mix it up with the LaSalle group that we're going to talk about in just a second. Harper, really like him as a potential top 10 guy, looking ahead a little bit to states, assuming that he can get there. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed even for somebody
of this high quality. Hopefully his team's going to be there with him. Hopefully his team's going to take down a district championship. And I think Harper, the freshman, Brian McGarity, another interesting name, Dorita, another freshman on Bonner's team. So they got some young guys behind Harper. Hopefully can learn behind him, put together a nice future for this team. Always a good program. I'm expecting them to contend. Looking at AAA, the same old story has been LaSalle and O'Hara. At PCLs, the stage was kind of set for that again. St. Joe's Prep, I think they have a nice team. Maybe can make a run. O'Hara just seems to have a tight pack with that top 5, and I think that's going to get them through to states. This isn't the strongest O'Hara team we've ever seen, but I think it's a pretty solid team. They've got a pretty nice pack, and I think they'll survive this district meet and make it on to states. LaSalle, the team to watch at states from this district, they just ran really well at PCLs, sweeping the top spots. Evan Addison running away with the PCL title. He's the defending district champion. Is expected to win again. But LaSalle, really what it comes down to for them is what are they going to do at states? I think most people would probably have them, if not the favorites right now, among the favorites. I don't know if anyone's completely convinced about any team right now. That's just the vibe I'm getting from the readership. I haven't talked to a ton of people, but it seems like this is a pretty up-in-the-air AAA state title. It's really, I think, a pretty up-in-the-air title for all 3 classifications, but it's getting a little sidetracked. LaSalle, though, I think might be the best team, at least on paper. And they've had some really good teams in the past. They haven't finished higher than second at state since joining the PIAA, and that was their first year that they were in the PIAA back in 2008. So since then, they haven't been higher than third, and that was in 2009. So they've always been in that top 5. Last year, I thought they had a really good team that could maybe pull off an upset or pull off a silver medal winning performance. I think I might have even picked them for second, and they didn't quite get there. This team a little bit more seasoned. The top 5, I really like the top 5. If they all run to their ability, I think this team is built like a state championship team more so than the other top teams. But they got to prove it. They got to exercise some demons. They've always been good at states, but they need to be great at states this year. So districts, that's going to be – I don't think that's going to tell us much for this team. Hopefully they can save a little bit because it looks like they're going to make it through without a lot of trouble. You never know. But hopefully they can save a little bit and bring that little extra spark to states this year and make a run at a state title. So that's District 12. Jumping down one district to District 11. Let's start in the AAA this time around. AAA race is going to be a lot of fun. Team-wise, I think there's 3 teams competing for the 2 state spots. I've talked about this before. Parkland, Easton, Stroudsburg. Parkland seems to be the team that's rolling as of late. They didn't impress me with their depth early in the season, but the depth is quickly coming together. And I think what they did at their league meet kind of indicates to me that this team is going to do what they've always seemed to do, and that's come together in the postseason, put on an excellent performance at districts, and get to states. I haven't finalized the predictions for District 11 yet. I have to do that soon because they're one of the early meets. I think I'm leaning towards Parkland for the win as a team. I think Easton has arguably the most talent, but they've got to prove that they can beat Parkland. That's a historical powerhouse. Parkland also has the best 1-2 punch. Riley Williamson looks like he could be the district champion. A really fast time at Paul Short. Really, really impressive. Colin Kramer from Southern Lehigh is going to be his main competition. Kramer put up a great performance at Foundation. So those 2 seem like the best guys on paper. They've 2 of the only District 11 guys who've really sniffed the top 50 rankings as well this year. It also has Nicholas Bauer. So the Williamson and Bauer together make up the best top 2, in my opinion, in the district. If Easton's going to beat Parkland, then they're going to have to hang with that front running. They're going to need the Cardones and Osgard to make a statement with their runs. Parkland's pack really coming together. Interesting, I did see Sam Morgan in results for the first time at leagues. I don't know if he'll be running at districts, and hopefully he's healthy and ready to go for track season. That's a really talented guy that even if he's not at 100% can maybe give you a spark at least because he's so talented. Stroudsburg is an interesting team. They didn't have their best day at districts last year, but I don't think that showed just how good they were last year. And this year's team brings back a lot of talent from that past year's team. They ran solid at Paul Short. They were right around Parkland, so they're a sleeper team to make it. But I think Easton and Parkland are probably the picks. Southern Lehigh, the real long shot. They're still missing some of the guys that were on last year's team, some of those top returners, but they do have Colin Kramer and they do have Thomas Matsumara, who returned for the first time at their league meet. So he's a name to watch out for. He was their number one last year at districts. Really talented runner. He's running the low 420s for 1,600, so he's back in the lineup. Looked pretty good at leagues, actually. He's a threat for top 5 in the district. And with that 1-2 punch, maybe Southern Lehigh's got one more surprise up their sleeve like they had a year ago, where they surprised and won the district. Or sorry, came in second in the district and qualified for states. Parkland was the champs last year. Jumping down to AA. AA is going to be a really exciting individual matchup. Ethan Bernstein from Saucon Valley, sub-16 at Paul Short, defending champion, top 50 finisher from last year's state meet. Quality guy. He's run some really nice times at 3,200 on the track. He's been a great runner. But ultimately, John Coons from Notre Dame ended up leaving last medal. And Coons is just he was. I don't think I saw him in the early meets of the season. He was getting back into it in the middle, and then he looked really strong at leagues. And Coons is now emerging as potentially the favorite to win the district. I think it's going to come down to Bernstein and Coons. Hammerstone, also from Notre Dame, has had a terrific season, really raced well at McQuaid. He deserves at least a mention in this preview, and he'll probably get more than that in the typed up version. But I think ultimately it comes down to Bernstein and Coons. And maybe Bernstein thinks the district title isn't as important as getting on the state medal stand. And maybe it's a flip between him and Coons this year at districts and a flip at states. Either way, those guys are both talented. They both are going to be in medal contention in a deep AA medal field. I mean, calling that one's going to be really tricky when we get to that point. And luckily, I have a little bit more time to figure it out. Some other individual sleepers there, Robert Leiser from Northwestern Lehigh and Philip Castron from Northwestern Lehigh. Those are a couple names out. Team-wise, I think Notre Dame has a pretty solid team. I think that they are going to take the title in this district, and I think they'll be fun to watch at states. AA team title, I'm not saying Notre Dame's going to win the AA team title. I think that might be a long shot goal. But the AA team race is pretty up in the air right now. There's no teams that have been grabbing the top spots, in my opinion. And Notre Dame, if they run to their potential, they have 2 guys who can be up near the medals. They have a nice pack. We'll see what they look like at districts, but they could potentially sneak in top 7 teams in the state this year, which I think would be a great achievement for this squad. Looking down at single A, Wayne Riley is the defending champ. He's from Tri-Valley. He's back this year. Solid race at leagues from him. But actually a freshman, Scott Zoskin from Weatherly. Again, apologies in advance for any names that I mispronounced, but Scott looked awesome at his league meet, was mixing it up at the top of that field. Jacob Martinez from Palmerton is another individual. So those are the 3 top individuals. District 11, single A hasn't always been a medal threat individually, but these are 3 pretty talented guys. Maybe they can push each other at districts and set the stage for a run at some individual medals at states. I think Mahanoy, I don't know how to say her name, this team from single A, they're the defending champions. I think they're going to be the champions again and should be able to mix it up for a top 10 spot at states in a deep year in single A. Jumping down to District 10, this is going to be a fun one. We have to wait till the weekend for District 10, but the battles across the board are going to be exciting. Let's start in Single A. Let's talk teams first here. Seneca's the defending champs. Seneca's looked pretty good this year. They haven't been amazing. They lost their top 3 runners from states from a year ago when they were the district champs and 3rd place in the state. They're turning over. It's a little bit of a new era. Has done a really nice job. Schneider has been solid, and Stepnikowski has been strong as well. So they've got a good top 3. The pack's coming together. Post has been back in the lineup, which I like. It's a solid pack, but they're going to have a tough time with a couple teams. Northeast has looked good. I think Josh Lewis has a chance to be the individual champ. Going to talk about that in a second. Koch Ranton, their top 4 is awesome. I think their top, if they scored it through 4, this team would be in the conversation for the best teams in the state, I think. Their 5 has been consistently improving, and I think that gives them a chance to win the district. But District 10 has a lot of good teams, and if anybody has an off day, you might not even make it. So I think District 10 Single A is going to be one of the most exciting, deepest races out of any district that has only 2 team spots. Individually, this is a tough one. I think Lewis looked the best early in the season from Northeast. Zach Tingley, who's historically been one of the top runners in the district every year, he's been doing the best running arguably as of late. But Noah Bernarding, the sophomore, he has run right with Tingley almost every step of the way, and I think he could just knock him off. He's just as likely to knock him off as anyone. I think those 3, the big 3 names to watch. I think that's an exciting individual and team battle in District 10 Single A. That should be fun. District 10 Double A. Hitting this one quick. Grove City is trying to make a case that they're the best team in the state. I ranked them number 1 in Double A in the last rankings that I did. It's been a while since then, admittedly. That looks pretty good. I think Jonah Powell looks awesome. He's probably my pick right now for the district champ individually. I want to see a number 2 or a number 3 guy step up. They've got a great pack. Their 2 through 5 is great. It's pretty reliable, pretty consistent. But I think they need a second star if they're going to win the state championship. Harbor Creek, they have 3 stars. They have Ryan Stravaji, Aiden Weber, and Christian Babo. All 3 returning state medalists. All 3 guys aren't afraid to go for it. They're gunners. They'll get out aggressively and race hard on the course. And I think that makes them a dangerous team, especially in a smaller style setup. District 10 Double A, not the biggest district. Harbor Creek's the defending team champions. They could win again this year. They're 4-5. I think they're a little underrated, maybe even. General McLean a couple weeks ago at Cooper's, they started to make a little bit of a name for themselves. I think their top 2 guys have been on my radar all year, but they've had some other pieces start to step up. And I think their pack is really coming together at the right time. I think General McLean's got a chance to get back to states for the 2nd straight year. Harbor Creek and Grove City, they both have the potential to be top 5 teams in the state. So you tell me who Harbor Creek's going to be able to knock off. I'm not exactly sure. But if any of the top teams don't bring their A game, they're going to be in trouble. So those are the top 3 teams. I think that's pretty clear. I think Grove City and Harbor Creek are going to make it through, but General McLean definitely a sleeper. Individually, Jonah Powell is probably my pick right now. As I said, he's had a terrific season. He's been really tough to stop. Has to get a little bit of vengeance on this course. A year ago, he did not qualify for states individually, had an off day at the meet, just kind of showing that anything can happen on race day. I think he comes back with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and I think he ends up the champion. Harbor Creek's top 3, I just talked about them. General McLean's top 2, I talked about them. All those guys are going to be – all those guys are juniors, by the way, with the exception of Christian Bobo from Harbor Creek. They're all juniors. So they're all juniors. They've all done well at this meet before, whether they were freshmen or sophomores when they were doing well. It's been a great young group of guys, and I'm excited to see what this year brings. Junior year, a lot of times you get a big jump, and what next year brings. This is just kind of the beginning. Speaking of young guys, Patrick Stevens from Meadville. I don't think I've seen him race in recent weeks, but he put up some great numbers early in the season, was one of the best freshmen in the state a year ago. He's another name to watch. District 10 AAA. Moving to that, McDowell seems like my pick right now. Cathedral Prep, their biggest rivals. McDowell's got a nice top 3. Holmberg, Zimmerman, Daubert among their top guys. They've shown, I think, the best consistency of the bunch. It's a small district. Which is a little bit more to talk about it more in depth, but always tough for the District 10 AAA teams to crack the top squads overall in the state. You're just dealing with a lot of high-quality guys. But McDowell, pretty solid team this year. I think that they would be my pick as of right now. Let's jump down to District 9. They only do single A and double A. I'm going to try to move a little bit faster because I think I'm dragging a little bit. And like I said, I'll be breaking down all these districts in posts coming up, which will go a little bit more in depth and hopefully satisfy, the more in depth readers and the district specific readers for each one. You can kind of focus on your own posts. So, District 9, Double A, Bradford has looked the best. Like I said, this Double A state team landscape is interesting, and Bradford's had a nice season. Logan Caruso is having his best year that he's had it in a couple years, and there's a pack behind him, which is really strong. Tyler Kraft, sophomore, is having an awesome year. Bradford, if they can get all 5 guys running well at the right time, I mean, they're another team that can kind of do what I was saying Notre Dame could do and get into the top 7 or so teams. A lot of teams that seem to be clicking on all cylinders, which makes for an interesting race. Puxatawny, they lost one of their top guys from a year ago. Still a strong team, still a proud team. They're going to battle out hard with Bradford in this meet. But I think Bradford, Logan Caruso, I think those are your champions in Double A. Single A, Elk County Catholic. Historically strong team. Really like their top 5. A bit of a drop-off after 5, so maybe that's where they end up being vulnerable, but this is a consistent program. Second in the state last year. Look poised to potentially match that, potentially improve on that today. Ben Hoffman looks like their number 1 guy. I think this guy's a medal contender. I think this guy's a top 5 in the state contender if he has the right day. Just a sophomore. Still has a lot to prove, but I really like his upside. I think he's going to be a big-time performer. The Smethport 1-2 punch of Gregory, that's what I'm keeping my eye on. Smethport's got a chance to make it to states as a team. They've got 2 guys who were right around the medals last year at states. I think I want to see a little bit more consistency out of their top 2 than I've seen so far this season. I want to see a little proof that they can stay in the medals. So those are 2 names I'm going to be paying special attention to at this meet, Gregory and Tanner, to see how strong those guys are looking heading into Hershey, if they're ready to attack those hills and get in the medals. Elk County Catholic, it can't show me too much to change my mind about where I'm going to put them in the state. I think the District 9 single A is pretty good. One of the more underrated districts. But I think last year they didn't completely wow me at districts, but I've seen what they had the potential to do throughout the season, so I picked them as one of the top 2 teams, maybe even a threat to win the state title last year. I think I was talking about that. This year I'm not quite as high on them, but I'd like to just see all 5 of their guys have a nice day, look strong. The states. They certainly can win the state title, but it's a tough year in single A. And if you have an off day, you could be outside the top 5. There's a lot of good teams. District 8, we saw that meet just happened. Taylor Alderdice, historically the power there, they rolled. And as was mentioned, they had one of their best ever averages they've posted. Tavon Davis ran the fastest individual championship time that I can remember seeing on the course. He beat Ian DeCilio's time from Ian's junior season, and also beat Amadou Diallo's time from last year. Those guys both finished in the 20s at states in the medals. Davis has a chance to get there. Ethan Herman, who's been his teammate, who's been running terrific, also has a chance to get there. They have 2 medal threats. They have an experienced team, has been said. Chance at the top 10 at states. It's going to be really hard to get there. There's just a lot of high-quality teams in AAA. I don't have them in the top 10 right now. I got to see which teams end up qualifying. But Alderdice, they have the potential to get 2 guys on the medal stand. That would say a lot about this program. District 8, obviously not a big district, not a lot of teams competing there or individuals competing there. But if they get 2 guys on the medal stand a year after they had 1 guy on the medal stand, 3 guys in 2 years, there's not a lot of teams that can say that, regardless of size and location. So that would be an awesome achievement for Alderdice to pull off. Something to watch for sure. Okay, we're jumping to the WPIAL. This is going to be an exciting meet. We've already kind of seen a nice preview for it at Cooper's just a week ago. Let's start in single A. Winchester Thurston. Last year, they absolutely dominated this meet. It's really as simple as that. They went on to dominate the state championship. So this year, I don't think they need to dominate it as much as they did last year to be the favorites for states. But I'd like to see them put together a nice run. I'd like to see them put together a healthy run. We haven't seen Tristan Forsyth recently. And they'll obviously need him if they're going to knock off the Penns Valleys of the world. Gordon Pollock, though, stepped up big time in their last race. He had a great race at districts a year ago. He looks poised for a state medal individually. A couple freshmen on this team really running well. Patrick Malone in particular has been leading the way. Freshmen, you just never know what's going to happen with them on the big stage. Winchester Thurston's been able to get a good amount out of their freshmen the past 2 seasons. They've had top 5 guys who've been freshmen that have run really well. But it's a lot of pressure in the moment when you're going for state championship and you're a young kid who's never been on that stage before. So districts is a good chance to kind of prove yourself, get your feet wet. We're definitely going to be watching the freshmen to see how they handle this. The team battle behind them, Riverview, I think, is going to make it. They had Michael Komniak come back. They've been pretty deep this year. They've made it before. I think they're getting back. Although Eden Christian gave them a nice run the last time the 2 teams met. Eden Christian's got a nice pack. Do they have the front running? That's going to be the question for them. And then Chenango, they just missed states each of the past 2 seasons. They're an exciting story because they've had heartbreak 2 years in a row. They're kind of like, for the District 1 fans out there that are listening, they're kind of like a Springford type team within the District 7 single A race. And this feels like the year that they're going to get there. But you never know. Nick Pindle's been a nice weapon for them. Matt Salem is obviously a strong runner. So we'll see what happens with this squad. I'm hoping that they get to states. They definitely deserve it. Individually, we already talked about Forsyth. He's a favorite not only in this race, but in the state race. But this race will tell a lot about where his health is, where his fitness is. Tristan has had injury problems in the past, but he always seems to show up for the big races. won the outdoor state title last year in the 1600, ran 4:12. Really fast time. We'll see what he can do at districts, his last district meet. I don't believe he has a cross-country district title. I think his teammate won a year ago, but somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Matt Salem from Chenango, I already mentioned him. Ben Barnes from Riverview, I think, has a chance to have a really big race. He's been running fantastic the last 2 weeks. This is a guy who could be a top 5 finisher in the state. Watch for him. Chris Cosent, Jonas Jason, Adam Hessler, some other names to watch. I'll be breaking down the full names in due time in my district post. District 7 AA, another really tight race. The theme for District 7 seems to be 4 teams for 3 spots. There's only 3 spots in AA. There's only 3 spots in AAA. There's 4 teams in both classifications that can make it. For sure. There's 4 teams deserving of making it. There's 4 teams that could potentially be top teams in the state on the right day. You can argue that was the case last year in District 7 AA as well. Newcastle was left out of the state championship by a nose against South Fayette, and South Fayette ended up coming in 3rd in the state. Newcastle, so to clarify who I think the top 4 teams are in District 7 AA, and again, there could be a team that sneaks up and surprises me, but my top 4 teams, in no particular order right now, Greensburg, Salem, South Fayette, Newcastle, and Indiana area. I think those are the best 4 teams. I think those are the 4 teams that are going to be competing for the 3 spots. Each of the teams kind of has their flaws, but each of them has a lot of strengths going for them. Newcastle, it's going to be interesting. They had a near miss last year. That's why I'm kind of rooting for them to make it back. We've got some young guys stepping up and contributing. LaShawn Huff is definitely an X factor after his awesome district race from last track season, but Newcastle is going to have to prove that they belong in the top tier. We didn't see them race at Cooper's, and they just missed last year. So they're the team that I'm wavering on. I have them in right now, and I have South Fayette out. But if something's going to change for my top 3, it seems like it's going to be between those 2 teams. Salem, unbelievable top 3, defending champs. The 4 and 5 are solid. I think they're solid enough to help them advance. One off day from one of their big 3, they could be in trouble. We saw that a little bit at states last year. A pretty young team. They've got that big top 3 is all juniors. They've got young guys who are contributing. We'll see how that affects them at a big stage like districts. I do have them in, though. I do think they're almost racing 2 on 4 or 2 on 5 against some of these teams because of how good their top 3 are. Indiana has been the strongest, most consistent squad of the bunch. They're awesome. They looked great at Cooper's. It's going to be interesting to see how close to winning the state title they can come. Because AA, like I've said seemingly a million times now, it's pretty up for grabs. And so why not Indiana area? That's going to be the question that we're looking at when we go watch this district meet. Why not them? What are they going to do? Individually, Sam Snodgrass, he's been the class of this district for AA. He's definitely a heavy favorite. But Mark Brown from Greensburg Salem, I believe he beat him a year ago at this meet. He's not going to be afraid of him. Cameron Binda has been running right with Brown. They're both from Greensburg Salem. We saw LaShawn Huff pull off a big upset before. Maybe he can do it again. There's a lot of interesting sleeper picks, I think, from this group. Some younger guys who can maybe step up. Kendall Brannon from Indiana area is another name. So it'll be an interesting race. I think the team battle is the most compelling part of that one. And in AAA, I think the team battle is the most compelling part as well. We have 4 teams competing for 3 spots: Mount Lebanon, Butler, North Allegheny, and Seneca Valley. I think the most interesting storyline, kind of the elephant in the room when you're going to talk about this, is got to be what is Mount Lebanon going to do at districts. They've had some tough times at this meet in the past, but they've also qualified for states a bunch. They've also had a bunch of individual state qualifiers. They've also proven themselves when they've gotten to states. They were a top 10 team in the state just 2 years ago, with 3 guys in the top 55 or so, including a state medalist. This year's team is the best one that I've seen from this school since that team was second at districts, I believe, and they were 4th in the state. That's what this team has the potential to do if they can survive this meet. Based on what we just saw from them at Cooper's, they should be able to survive. They should be able to compete for the win. Patrick Anderson looked really strong at Cooper's. If he races like that, he's not only going to be dangerous at districts, but he's going to be dangerous at states. And he's going to help this team a lot. And Anderson was one of the big performers at last year's Whitfield meet for this team. He and Costantino, I believe they were their 2 state qualifiers, even though they hadn't necessarily been the top dog on this team all year. So those guys have proven that they can run really well at districts, and hopefully that carries through to the rest of the team, and they can get this monkey off their back, and we don't have to talk about it every year. So that's what I think is going to be most interesting. I just want to see them make it through to states and survive this cutthroat battle, and then see what they do there, because they want to have their name in the state title talks, and I think their name deserves to be in the state title talks. But it's not impossible for them to miss out completely on the state meet if things don't go right. That's how good the rest of the teams are. Seneca Valley, I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on them. They look great. They've got a really good top 5. 6 and 7 are improving to give them a little bit of a safety valve. Top 5 team a year ago. Whitfield champs a year ago. About at Seneca Valley. Butler and North Allegheny. That's what the smart money says will be the state qualifying cutoff. North Allegheny, a solid run at Cooper's. Looks like they have the pieces. Dan McGoey, sophomore. They've got a pack. They don't have a ton of weakness in the top 5, but they need a number 2 to step up, I would say. Butler's going to have a 1-2 punch. Noah Beveridge. The smart money says he'll be district champion. Brett Brady. He's got a good chance at a top 5 finish, in my opinion. So that 1-2 punch is going to be very strong for Butler. In Dressler at Cooper's, if he returns to the lineup, in theory, he's a number 3 piece for Butler, who's got a chance to be a top 15, top 20 guy on the right day. It's hard to underestimate Butler because they did have a big day at districts last year when I did pick against them, and they proved me wrong. I was high on this team in the preseason, and I usually have a tough time letting things go. So I think Butler's going to make this a compelling race with whoever. Right now, in theory, they're on the outside looking in, but I think they're hard to count out. Of course, North Allegheny, the powerhouse in this district. Up until last year, they were champions every year that I've been following the sport. So it's hard to pick against them as well. Somebody has to miss. I don't want any of these 4 teams to miss. I wish there was some wild card system we could do to get them in place, but somebody's got to miss. We'll see if it's North Allegheny. That'll be a big surprise for sure. But it's possible. If I had to make picks right now, I'd pick Seneca Valley, North Allegheny, Mount Lebanon in that order. But don't hold me to that. I could change my mind before the post goes up. There's a lot of really good teams outside that top 4, and I don't want to sell them short. Norwin's had a terrific season. They haven't had Matt O'Neill, who is their top returner and a really strong runner. I haven't seen much of his name in results this year. But they've still put together an unbelievable pack, and they fought really well against Greensburg-Salem at their league meet, and they're a nice team. I don't know if they have the firepower out front to compete for a top 3 spot, but they're a nice team. They could surprise some people. Chartiers Valley's had another good season. There's a lot of strong teams. Pittsburgh Central Catholic is good. They didn't have Max Steffi at Cooper's. Fox Chapel has had a really nice season. Christian Fitch, the sophomore, and John Folkerts. Great 1-2 punch for them. Those are 2 guys that I think are going to make states individually. So a lot of other really good teams that deserve some talk, but I think the compelling part is going to be that top 4. I think those are the top 4 teams. Certainly on paper they are. I think they'll be on the day, and I think the fight for the last state qualifying spot is going to be intense and a lot of fun. Like I said, for those of you jumping in a little late, we're going through the districts in reverse order. We started with 12. We just finished up talking about 7. I'll be making posts all this week for all the districts, and I'm going to predict every single state qualifier, all the teams, all the individuals, every district, every classification. So you're going to want to tune in for that. Analysis of everything, breaking it down. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on them before, after, during. All right, jumping down, District 6, 3 classifications here as well. Starting in AAA, State College, they've been the top dogs now for a couple years. Used to be Altoona. State College has taken over the mantle. Mitchell Edders really developed into a star. Returning top 50 finisher, from the state meet. Comes from a great program. That 1-2 punch is really, really strong. They added Eric Botheus, Joe Messner, Sam Horn. They've been putting together some really solid races to bolster the top 5. They have other pieces who I think can step up on the right day. Bennett Norton, he's a freshman. He's had some really nice races this year. Ari Gluckman's another piece. State College, I feel like, is pretty deep. And I think they'll lean on that depth combined with 2 really good front runners to not just win the district meet, but compete for a top 10 spot in the state yet again. Prize teams at states last year, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, the potential to do that again because that top 2 punch is going to be strong and their pack is solid. I do want to give a shout out to Mifflin County. I think they've put together a really nice. They're still young. Braden Harris, just a freshman, ran 16:02, I believe, at Carlisle. That kid is really talented, and he gets to run with Chase McNair. Is coming on very strong in the last couple weeks. Could mix it up for a state medal down the line. Chase Schaefer has had a nice season. They have Seth Phillips, who's a 155 guy, and is also, I believe, just a junior. So Mifflin County, pretty young team, will hopefully give State College a run for their money at districts and mix it up. Those top guys are going to be in the mix with State College's top guys for sure. And hopefully, if nothing else, build for the future. If they don't end up making states, I think, they can learn a lot and grow a lot. And then on the track, watch out for them in DMR or 4x8 or something. They could put together a nice time for themselves in one of those events. So keep that in the back of your mind. AA, I think Central Cambria is the team. I don't know if Garrett from Juniata, the sophomore, ran sub 420 in the 1600 last year as a freshman. He's the defending AA individual champ in District 6, but he ran in the white race at Foundation, which would indicate that he's going to be single A this year. So I'm not sure exactly where he ends up in the final race. If he's in this race, I think he's the favorite. If he's not, it opens up the door a little bit more for a new champion to emerge. District 6. I really like the season Brett Pope has happened from Bellefonte. Great opening race and has had some strong races since then. Mitchell Chunta from Forest Hills, another name that deserves a mention at the top of this group. Individually, I think this one's just a new star. I'm not sure who the top guy right now in this district is. I don't believe District 6 had a state medalist a year ago. I merges this year and ends up competing for that spot at the top. That'll be interesting to see. I think the top team, they've had a pretty solid season so far. They have a nice pack. They're the defending champions, well coached. I think that team's getting to states out of District 6 AA. Single A, the storyline is Penns Valley, certainly for most people. They were a foundation. Once I saw them at Big Valley, I knew this team had the potential to be really good. They added 2 freshmen, Colton Sands and Brendan Colwell, they both have the potential to be state medalists in single A as freshmen, which is pretty rare. And Penns Valley's whole top 5 has the potential to be in the top 30 or so at states. Charlie Romig, who was their number 6, he's been coming along. I think he's got the potential to be a nice insurance piece. And when you have 2 freshmen in your top 5, you need those insurance pieces. They had a big gap between 5 and 6 I remember correctly, but I think that's one of the things I'm watching at this meet, because I know their top guys can run well, but I want to see some insurance, because bad days do happen at states, and they have 2 freshmen who they're going to be relying on, and you never want to put too much pressure on those young guys. At Hershey, it's a really tough course, a lot of pressure, and sometimes bad things are going to happen because of how hard the course is, because of the environment around the place, and you got to have the head for it. And sometimes as a young guy, you don't. You grow up over the years. That's why there's so many seniors at the top of these fields. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But there's also freshmen that have pulled through and accomplished big things. And like I was saying, Evan, there's a lot of freshmen that are going to be important pieces in deciding the state championship this year in single A. Let's see which guys come out at districts and set the stage for states. Individually, Balblitz might be here. Chris Colwell, the senior leader from Penns Valley, he's the defending champion. Andrew Stanley from Southern Huntington, he's a fantastic runner. We saw his gutsy run at States Outdoors last year in the 3200. A lot of good individuals here. I think the strength of Penns Valley as a team is going to make the other individuals step up. I think this could be one of the top districts at states when all is said and done this year in single A. Michael Hannock from Bishop McCord, a sleeper. Hunter Armstrong from Marion Center. Carter Kaufman from St. Joseph's. An exciting battle for the second team spot as well, and I'll break that down when I talk about this team in my preview down the line. But I want to keep it moving because I've already talked for a really long time. District 5. AA, pretty small meet. It's almost a dual meet between Somerset and Bedford. Somerset, I think, the best team. Van May of Bedford, the freshman individual, but I like KJ to give him a good challenge. Dominic Mazzariello, the defending champion, had his best race of the season last time out, so potentially a 3-man race at the top of District 5 AA. District 5 Single A, not a ton of data points there. And again, I'm going to go into this in the preview. This is one of the first previews I'm doing, so I don't want to spoil that. Winbur areas looked pretty solid, but Southern Fulton's kind of the class of this district historically. We'll see who ends up pulling away. Watch for the Northern Bedford duo. Ian Sherlock is one of the top returners from a year ago. Also have a guy by the name of Ian Zimmerman, a freshman from Northern Bedford, who could end up being the district champion when all said and done. So watch out for those Northern Bedford guys in District 5 Single A. Southern Fulton, excited to see them get on the course and get in some results, see what they have. Only 2 classifications here as well. Let's start Single A. Single A is going to be interesting. Northeast Bradford's been the top team historically, but Mount Carmel, they're a new addition to this size. And, they've They put together a nice pack this year. They don't necessarily have the best front running. I think that belongs maybe to Wyolusing Valley, who's got a couple really strong front runners. Southern Columbia, they have Ethan Noble, who's one of the top dogs. So they're going to be an interesting team as well, Southern Columbia. But I think Mount Carmel's going to take the one state spot. Nervous picking against Northeast Bradford because of their historical success. And this could end up being one of the more exciting team battles when all is said and done. But I think Mount Carmel's ultimately gonna get that state spot. In Double A, I think it's a little bit more interesting of a question. Loyal Sock just had the best race of the recent District 4 AA teams. Their top three is strong. Their 4-5 proved that they can hang with some of the best other teams. State qualifiers a year ago, but they look poised to possibly get there this year and maybe be the district champions. Quinn Surfoss leads their team. Milton area, they could really benefit from Tyler Leeser coming back into the lineup. We haven't seen him since PTXC, I don't think. They have a strong enough team that if he does return, then they can make a nice run, win the district title, and compete for a top 10, top 7 spot at AA states, because I think it's open. Lewisburg and Danville, a couple schools that I have to mention because they have a knack for showing up at the big meets. Danville hasn't quite shown that they belong in that top class in that state qualifying discussion. Lewisburg's got some young guys who are stepping up at the right time. Calvin Bailey comes to mind. If you want to, I feel like this race is going to be a little more random. I feel like somebody's going to surprise. Run, another team that I should mention. They've had a nice season. Loyal Sock bested them last time out at Shkelmy, but I think they'll come back with, determined to prove themselves in the rematch. I think Warrior Run on paper so far this year, but we'll see what they do on race day. Isaac Davis, the individual favorite here. A chance for a great three-way battle with Surfoss and Leeser. But Isaac Davis has just been on another level so far this year. He's the AA favorite. The way the kid's running, he belongs in the Foot Locker discussion, I think, because he's put down some impressive times. We'll see how he holds through to the finish. Really impressed with him. District 3, another big district. We're jumping there. Let's hit single A real quick. York Catholic has been the top team. Couple key guys at their league meet, but if they return everybody and they have their up on the line, Evan Schlossler, one of their top guys, Gervaisi's been doing some good running recently. I think York Catholic's going to take this title down. DeLone Catholic, another team that I think has state qualifying potential. Two teams come out of this District 3 single A. Brendan Miller, individually, he's been awesome this year. Ran 1540, I believe, at Carlisle. Was a big winner at Big Spring. He came out of nowhere to win this district meet last year. I had literally never heard of him, and then he rolled against some really great competition. Didn't have a great state meet just because a little inexperience, maybe went out a little over his head. But based on what we saw from him outdoors in the 3200, I think he's a lot more poised now, and this guy could maybe win the state championship. I know Forsyth's obviously got the most talent and the best resume, but Miller making a name for himself in recent weeks. I like what I've seen from this kid. Districts probably isn't going to tell us much about what he's going to do at states, but I think he's going to come out, attack the course, look for a fast time, and maybe make a statement about his potential to run well at Hershey. We'll see if that actually happens. That might just be wishful thinking, but see what happens. Double A, District 3. It looks like the same three teams are making it that made it last year. It looks like Milton, Hershey, York Suburban, and Wyomissing. But who's the best team? I'm missing, because the best team here in districts might be the best team at states. York Suburban, they were second the last 2 years and state champions in 2014. So clearly the bar for being a great team in the state competing for a state championship is York Suburban. Wyomissing, to me, has all the pieces to beat York Suburban. Their top three are awesome. Matt Dribbin and Ben Kuhn have been terrific this year. Joe Cullen wasn't their top guy at leagues, but he's been their top guy in the past. He's the defending district champion. He's run 413, I believe, for the 1600. If all three of those guys are clicking, that top three is awesome, and they have the depth. They have a great five. They had 5 guys under 17 at Paul Short. Some guys who were outside the top 5 at Paul Short stepped up, jumped into the top 5 at leagues. I think Wyomissing has the chance to win districts and win states. They have to prove it on the big stage, which is where York Suburban's been successful. They were the big district champions a year ago. Came within a few points of winning 3 straight state championships. Back from that team that did it. Their 1-2 punch is nothing to laugh at. Bryce All and Jared Roundesky. Anytime you got a guy named Jared on your team, I think you have a good chance. So York Suburban, because they're typically a pretty clutch performer, especially at districts. I feel like they've had awesome district performances each of the last 3 seasons. But Wyomissing on paper, to me, looks like the better team. So we'll see who actually comes out on top. AAA. A lot to digest here in AAA. The team race is going to be another crazy race. Carlisle, I think, is in. Twin Valley, I think, is in. Sorting out the last 2 spots, going to be pretty crazy, I think. Mechanicsburg has a chance. Hempfield, you would certainly think has a great chance. Cumberland Valley, another team with a pretty impressive historical resume, a pretty nice pack. Those are the teams that jump out to me. But you have Chambersburg, who's shown potential. You have Palmyra, who is coming off an awesome mid-Pens race with a super young team that's going to be thirsty to prove themselves at this level. Hershey is always a strong team. If all their guys are in action, we saw them run pretty well at the Big Spring Meet earlier this year. Lower Dauphin, another former district champ team. They were in really well against Carlisle last year at districts and held their own against one of the best teams we've ever seen come out of District 3 from the last decade. That's another team. So, it might sound like I'm just listing out teams just for the sake of listing them out, but there's a lot of really good teams, and I got to almost dig into it a little more to figure out who's going to actually make it. Throwing Wilson's name in there as well, because Wilson has had a knack for showing up for the district meet. I'm excited for Carlisle versus Twin Valley. I think Carlisle looked awesome at Mid-Pens. I think they have a chance to be a top 10 team in the state. Maybe even more if everything clicks, especially if their number 5 has a big day. But Twin Valley, they've been in some big-time meets. They're very battle-tested. Dylan Service is looking like a front-running presence. They're going to give Carlisle all they can handle, I think, and it's going to be fun to see those 2 teams match up. And the winner of that battle could be a contender for top 5 in AAA, maybe. We'll see. A lot of good teams in AAA, but those teams have run well. District 2, and then we're going to do District 1, which is going to be crazy. District 2. I think Montrose has been the best team. Lakeland's had a nice season. Elk Lake, always good. But Montrose, I think, has been the best team. They've been the deepest team. They dominated the district meet last year. I think they're potentially just as good this year with a little bit of extra experience under their belt. I think they're going to win. Individually, Brandon Curley has had a really good year for Montrose. He's the top returner, I believe. I think he can definitely win the district title. But sophomore Andrew Healy, he was just outside my preseason top 50. I've always been a big fan of this guy, his potential. He ran a terrific race at Foundation, another awesome race at Paul Short. He might finish the year as a top 3 guy in single A at states as just a sophomore. he's gonna give Curley all he can handle. I think that's going to be one of the best individual district matchups we'll see in single A. Healy versus Curley. That should be a lot of fun. Double A. I think the top two from last year are the top two again, Dallas and Holy Redeemer. But these are two teams that I'm very interested in seeing how they look at districts. Some teams to districts because they're saving a little something, or they know they can get through to states because they're historical powerhouses, or maybe they're not as excited for districts because they're looking ahead to states. But Dallas and Holy Redeemer are two teams that I feel like have the potential to do really well at states if they click. And I just want to see what their weapons look like at districts. Just want to see if everybody's ready to roll. Dallas, of course, the two-time defending state champions. Josh Jordan has been running pretty well in recent weeks. I've thought he's been their number 5 guy. Jack Zardecki's awesome as an individual. Mitchell Rome's been good. Josh Wynant has also been strong. Adam Borton's been a top 40 guy, I believe, each of the past 2 seasons as well. So Dallas has a ton of talent. They haven't finished a race as the top school. Well, at Paul Short they weren't, and at their first meet they weren't. They didn't run foundation this year, so they've had some slips, I guess you could call them that. Team, and I still think they're going to win districts, and I still think they have a chance to win states. Feel for how good their chances are after this meet ends. Zardecki, I think the individual favorite. Interested to see if anyone can push him because he's been awesome this year. See which one of his teammates steps up to be the number 2 guy. Mitchell Martin from Berwick, another individual who can make noise, and Clay Kismall from Crestwood. Really nice season so far. Should be fun to watch him. District 2. Not usually a marquee event, but this year I think it's going to be awesome. Tyler Worth from Wallenpaupack, star. He's been incredible this year. He might be the number 1 junior in state, and he's already run under 15:30 for 5K. He's produced at Paul Short. He's produced PTXC. He's won at William Tennant. The dude's a star. He's looking to lead Wallenpaupack as a team to states. Abington Heights, they're the defending champs. They have 2 really strong runners in Kyle Burke and Dan Aronowski. They don't want to surrender their title easily. Franklin Cunningham from Hazleton. He's been really strong as an individual this year. He ran awesome at Foundation. That's one of the best races I've seen him run, and I think Cunningham's either won the district title or was top 2 in the district before in the past, I think, from Hazleton. In some of his younger years, he's put together an awesome season so far individually. Just going to roll over and quit at the top of this field. So individually, this is a group that's 6 deep in District 2 AAA, which you don't usually see. It's usually they've got 1 or 2 guys, maybe 3. But this year they've got 6 really strong guys. So I'm excited to watch them battle it out. And I'm excited to see if they can get multiple guys on the medal stand. All right, taking a breather here. Whew, over an hour of talking. Got a little carried away, I suppose. District 1. That's the last one that we'll do tonight. Like I said, in case you're joining in late again, I'm going to break down all of these districts, every single state qualifier. I will predict on the blog this week. You're going to want to check it out. District 5, District 2, and District 11 are the first ones in order. So they'll be the first ones that I post. And I'll continue to go chronologically through the lineups, breaking everything down, posting up all the predictions for the state qualifiers. I'll try to keep track of how many I get right. It's never 100%. It's never really close to that. But if I can get like 60 to 70% of it right, then I'm going to feel pretty good about myself. I'm pretty quick to feel pretty good about myself. I'm ready to give myself more credit than I deserve whenever possible. So Anyway, District 1. This is going to be a long post when we get to it. I'm going to see if I can timestamp exactly when I start talking about AAA so that people can just send this to their friends when I start talking about AAA. Because I know there's a lot of District 1 AAA readers. Let's hit single A and double A real quick. Single A, Jenkintown, big favorite, Jack Miller individually. Jenkintown's starting to get some well-deserved team buzz in recent weeks. Another team with a couple freshmen in their top 5 who can contribute, who can make noise. Jenkintown, potential to be a great team. Don't know how much we're going to learn from districts. Their season will be determined at states. I think they're going to be the big champs. I'm excited to see what they do when they get to states. Assuming they make it, I shouldn't put anyone in there before they actually do. But Jenkintown, exciting up and coming team. I'm hoping they advance, and we'll see what they do. Double A. I feel like this is an interesting race that I haven't seen almost any talk about, honestly. Pope John Paul has probably been the preseason favorite, the favorite on paper. They've raced some big meets, but Holy Ghost Prep is the defending champions. And although they lost a ton from last year's team, they did not have a lot of returners. I feel like this squad has consistently improved from week to week. And I feel like Holy Ghost Prep might be ready to win this, to pull off the upset. We'll see. I haven't made an official pick yet, obviously. Until it's posted up on the blog, it doesn't count. But Holy Ghost Prep is the way I'm leaning right now. That's my 2 cents. Cameron Junk of Upper Perk. Good runner. I think he's going to be the district champ, and I think he's going to mix it up for top 40 or so in the state. It's a DBR and double A. He could potentially do more, but I think that's a name that you want to keep an eye on if you're a fan of double A racing, especially out of District 1. Okay, it's time for triple A. Going to try to catch my breath here for a second. Working on a big file for this. I'm not going to talk individuals on the podcast here. I'll get into it in my post. I'll get into it in the rankings. It's an exciting individual race. It's deep. I saw the question going around about cutoff time. I think 16 teens certainly seems reasonable with good weather. I was looking at it. It might take like 16:11, 16:12. That might be a tad optimistic. If I'm forced to give a number, for like gambling purposes, I would put it at 16:18. But you never know, because I don't know what the weather will look like. That's the number I'm feeling. But it's deep. It's crowded. I was trying to figure out where the cutoff was going to be individually, and there's a ton of guys that deserve to be in. People are going to be left out that are good. And if you have an off day, you could slip out. So I said I wasn't going to talk about individuals, and already here I am. Let's go to the team battle. It's going to be crazy. District 1 team battle always is. At the top, I think CR North has best odds to make states. Their top 4 were awesome at leagues, and Matt Mullen is a solid runner. He's been having a really nice season. I think we saw at Carlisle and William Tennant that he can put together some good numbers for this team. I'd be stunned if they don't make states. I'd be pretty surprised if they don't win districts. It's possible, for sure. But I think they're going to win districts. I think they're going to make states. I think they're going to compete for a state championship yet again. So I feel like they have pretty good odds of making states. They've made it every year since I've been in high school, which was a long time ago. So if we're talking like odds, people have been given the odds for them to make it. I mean, 1 to 100. Like I think, they're 1 to 100 odds. I would say they're like 95, 99% chance of making it to states. I would be surprised if they don't. Downingtown West has had a nice season. They looked really good at chess bounce, has been said. I'm just reiterating from my commenters there. They've had a little bit of ups and downs this year. They haven't been perfect, but you can see the talent. Peyton Sewell's been really good the last couple weeks. Evan Kaiser has come on strong. He looks great at Chessmonts. They have a good top three. They have nice depth. It's hard to imagine that they're going to miss also. But they're definitely a little more vulnerable. I think those two teams are definitely in, slotting in teams. After that, I've gone back and forth a million times. The Pioneer League, I think everybody would agree the Pioneer League is the most intriguing group of teams. Springford, what a storyline for them. 6th place the last 2 seasons. They actually were more dominant at Pioneer last year. I think they scored like 20 points. And then they didn't end up making it to states. So you can read that as, is this team as good as last year's team? Or maybe this year's team is a little more focused on districts. A little more ready for districts. The last time they were at Lehigh, they ran fantastic. They won Paul Short. Since that time, we've seen Shane Ansco, who was their Lone State qualifier last year, their Lone State qualifier from the past 2 years. He had his best race of the season at Leagues. They have a freshman, and John, I'm going to mess up his name, so I'm not even going to say it. John, their freshman, had an awesome season, nearly broke 16 minutes the last time he was at Lehigh. He's a big X factor for them. He has a big day. I think that they shouldn't have a problem getting into states. McKenna's been consistent. Zach Smith is another guy who's a big X factor for them. He broke 16 the last time they were there. They were here. If their top 5's all clicking, they can win the district championship. But there's too much history here for me to feel comfortable putting them in the top 2. And there's always the chance that they slip out because there's so many good teams, and you never know who's going to have an off day. I've got Springford in, though. It just makes too much sense to me. They've been the best team in one of the best leagues in the state pretty consistently this year, or at least in recent weeks. So Springford is, I think, is also in. I think they're in my top 3. Okay, now we're really thinking about this hard. There's a lot of great teams that I'd love to mention in state qualifying discussion, but I just think they're too much of long shots. I mean, your Westchester Easts, your North Penns, your CB Easts even, those are just a little bit too much of long shots. But some of those teams are young. CB East, Westchester East, North Penn's got young pieces. Some of those pieces are young, and if they don't make states this year, they certainly can make it next year. And heck, they can have a huge day and disprove me. Penncrest is another young team. I looked hard at them. I think they've got a chance to make a run if they're 4 or 5, have a big day, but they're really young. And so I didn't pick Penncrest either for my top 5. So here's the teams that I was left with. Boyertown, Unionville, Shanahan, Henderson, Owen J. Roberts, CB West. Those were the teams I was left looking at. Boyertown, they've had a really nice season. In the early season, they looked phenomenal. They've slipped a little bit recently. They've still got one of the best packs. But to me, they're kind of built like some of the other teams we've seen just miss states in the past. I think they're a little short on front running and a little short on momentum right now. That being said, if they have a great day, they could be what CB West was last year, which was 3rd in the district with a pack starting at the 30s. That was super tight together. Everybody ran the course really well, and they step up and deliver. They could do that for sure. That's why I kept them in the conversation for me. I just ultimately couldn't bring myself to put them in because I think if they were going to be in, you know, that would be I might have to put 3 Pioneer teams in, and we'll get to Owen J. Roberts shortly. But ultimately, I opted against Boyertown. It hurt though. I think this is a great team. Unionville. I know that they didn't have a huge day at Chestmont's, but they didn't have their top 2 guys in the race for what that's worth. And I don't know if that's an injury thing. I don't know if that's a rest thing. But they were missing James Conway and Colton Walker from the results. And those are 2 guys that could have been top 5, top 10 guys. They left, I think, I was looking at the math, I think they left 80 to 90 points on the table potentially with those guys not running at Chestmont. So that they could have been a top 2 team there. So let's not overlook them. They have the potential to be a top 5 team for sure. But there were just too many question marks around them after that performance. So ultimately, I opted against them as well for my top 5. Shanahan. This was a tricky team. Clearly talented, developing in the back half of their lineup. They've got insurance pieces for their normal top 5. Their 6 and 7 are both pretty capable. We haven't seen all their guys click on the same day yet, which makes them scary. Last year at Districts, that was their best race of the season as a team. They were factor in the district for most of the year, and then at Districts, I think they were a top 10 or top 12 team and ran really well, like really well. That being said, I think that they would even admit that cross country is their main focus, and so many of these other teams are just so all in on this that maybe that's the difference in a really close race. Shanahan's one of the most talented teams. They have some great front running. They had 2 guys already break 16 this year. I decided to leave them out. So for those of you who are keeping track, that leaves 3 teams for 2 spots. CB West, Owen J. Roberts, and Henderson. 3 teams for 2 spots. This is tricky. Conventional wisdom would say you leave out Owen J. Roberts because Henderson and CB West have proven over the recent seasons that they are consistent, that they run districts well, and that they aren't they don't back down from the challenge. They're very well coached. They're great teams, and they have strong front running. But I'm putting Owen J. Roberts in. I'm not sure they're going to be 4th, but I've got Owen J. Roberts in my top 5. To me, they just fit the bill of a 5th place team. The CB Easts, the Hendersons from the past couple seasons. To me, they just feel like they're a top 5 team. I think that I've been really impressed with the way they've been resilient from week to week with their results. They have a dynamite front runner in Liam Conway. Kyle Malmstrom, huge race at Pioneer. Linus Blatt's big race at Paul Short. They just have guys who continue to step up. I think their number 7 at Pioneer was their number 4. I'm remembering right, and ran 16:30 there. So they can even be better than they were at Pioneer, and they almost beat Springford. Most people would say is a pretty good bet to make states. So Owen J. Roberts, shout out to them regardless of what happens. I think that they've had a huge season for their program this year. 2 years ago, they had a great start to the season, and then they kind of faded a little bit. They still managed to be top 10, I believe, in District 1, which is nothing to scoff at. But this year, I feel like they've been more consistent in their improvement from week to week. And obviously, but I feel like this is a team that even in the preseason, they kind of were like, they were looking at their roster and they were saying, look, we can maybe surprise and make states if we work hard and we train right. And I kind of want to see them make it. I don't want it to be the same old teams. So I'm putting them in. I believe they can do it. So that comes down to CB West and Henderson for my last spot. And Henderson last year kind of came in from off the radar. They made it to states, and they were a top 10 team there. And it was kind of just a reminder that you don't want to pick against Henderson. But I also kind of feel like the Henderson guys enjoy it when I pick against them so that they can laugh at me when I'm wrong. So I'm going to pick against Henderson here. I'm going to put CB West in my top 5. I actually really like what the CB West team has done in recent weeks. Their top 4 is really, really good. I think they could have 4 guys at 16:20 or faster. And Andrew Gillespie had a great race at leagues, which gives me some confidence in his ability to be a number 5 guy. And I've picked against CB West the last couple of years too, and they've beaten out my projections for them. And I don't know if I want to make that mistake either this year. I think they're kind of like CR North. They don't have quite the same level of firepower out front, but they've got pretty solid individuals of their own to boast about. I like their potential. And ultimately, I'm putting them in my state championship picture this year. It's going to be tight, and they're going to need to have a great race for the second straight week. But I like the direction they've trended in. I like how they've run at districts in recent years. They've run terrific at districts. Probably their best race of the season come at districts. So we'll see what they do this time. I've got them in. So my top 5. And I guess I could change this theoretically by the time my post goes up, but I don't think I'm going to. I think my top 5, CR North, Downingtown West, Springford, CB West, Owen J. Roberts. I think that's my state qualifying teams. So let me know what you guys think. If you've made it through this long, it's been a long time that I've been talking. I need to get a drink of water or something. But comment on the blog, hit me up, keep an eye out for the prediction posts. We'll be doing every single district, every single state qualifier. I've said it multiple times, but that's just because I want everybody to know that your district, your classification will be represented. Hey, Independent League, I'm going to try to put something together for you guys as well. Sorry that I didn't get to talk about you today, but we're just out of time at this point. Going to try to give you guys something as well, a little preview action for their Independent State Championships, GFS, probably the team favorites. Great individual battle, Jeffrey Love, Peter Borger, Elias Lindgren. That's going to be a fantastic, fun race at Belmont as well. So we're going to have plenty of posts to come. Hope you enjoyed listening to me talk for a really long time. I'll hear from you guys in the comment section. Best of luck to everybody at districts. Talk to you later.